ones that Beatles eat up.
That's fine, that would help.
That would, but
That would help.
that's what they want to do. Matter of fact, I watched the show on the other day, there are a lot of people that does that. Matter of fact, they done it one time, out there for the force of people.
We'll get you that.
So you might be and pines and all that.
Is this in there?
It's money to me.
No, that's just fun.
No, there should be, Peggy,
Yes, sir.
where's the special appropriations, back towards the end?
Right then, yeah, in the back. Page.
Are y'all starting? Should I start recording now, or?
Mike, are you ready?
I didn't print y'all.
This is not like a.
I think Jose wanted to talk about that before I printed it out.
Okay,
It's in here, but.
I guess I'm ready if you wanna start your camera.
Okay.
Alright, special call meeting, Sparta Town Council. First of all, have the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I need approval of the agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem, can I make need an addition to the agenda, need a closed session for some personnel changes.
Okay. Got an addition to the agenda. Any other business this time? A motion for, need a motion there for addition to the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor? You good?
Yes, sir.
All right. All in favor, 5-0. Okay. Continuing to the, Virginia, Carolina promissory note on August 3rd, 2023 meeting. You want to speak to that a little bit?
Yes, sir. So in the August 2023 meeting, there was a vote made by the council at that point in time to remove a promissory note that the BCWA still had on file with the town of Sparta. The promissory note was for the remaining balance of $76,434.61. The intent of the promissory note removal was it would be built in as capital to the BCWA. Because of some issues that arose during that time and the Town of Independence will not agree to do the same with theirs, they have a liability with the BCWA of $159,277.28. I did have the BCWA pull their minutes, and in their meeting, it says, the town of Sparta has forgiven the debt from the water authority, referring to the 76,000, still waiting for independence. So this was in 2023 that this occurred, and town of Independence has yet to forgive their debt to the BCWA. So, as I am working on the budget for the BCWA, that is a debt that has to be paid unless both towns agree to forgive that. In this case, the town of Independence has yet to forgive theirs, so I am asking our council to pull that, repeal that motion, because in the upcoming budget, those debts are gonna have to be paid back to the towns unless the town of Independence elects to forgive that. In which case, if they do, then we can always create another motion to forgive that debt again for a second time. The way the invested capital would work, if the BCWA was to ever be sold to a third-party vendor, that capital that we put into it, which would be the 76,000, would have to be paid by that vendor to the town as part of our ownership to the VCWA. The reason I'm asking for this because Independence has yet to forgive theirs, and it's been over 2 years, well, a year and a half. I would like to, as we prepare the budget over there, they're gonna have to start paying that back to the towns to make sure that we're in compliance. This is debt for labor that the towns put into building the VCWA. North Carolina Rural Water Association has actually told the VCWA that money has to be paid back to the towns, and the towns have to agree to buy it in as capital. The town of Sparta did its share, the town of Independence hasn't, so to be fair to both towns, since they're gonna start having to get their money, the town of Sparta needs to start getting its money as well, unless they elect to forgive theirs as well.
Okay, so do we need to bring that up at the next water authority meeting?
Yes, that will be discussed at the next VCWA meeting, which is gonna be Thursday, as their budget preparation begins to, the goal is to have their budget completed before the end of the year. And just to kind of give you an idea how that money works, or what happened, in 2020, the town of Independence and the town of Sparta made promissory notes for X amount of money. The town of Independence was, I think it was 220-some thousand. The town of Sparta was 104,000, and some cash to go with it. We were getting a payment for $814 every month. Fortunately, the way the billing works for the towns, for the equation, for the way the water works, that bill gets separated to the towns, so it's $32,509 a year. That gets separated to the towns, that's how we had $814. The citizens have to, it gets dispersed in monthly bill, so we charge that money and we turn back around, send our water bill to the VCWA turns back around, sends us a check for $814. So the intent was to just wash it off, so you don't have to charge that $32,000 every year, but again, both government bodies have to agree to it, or it continues to show as liability for the VCWA. And as I work on their budget, that's a discussion we're gonna have Thursday. They're gonna have to make a decision, and whatever the decision is that's made has to be carried through. I'll have that discussion with them on Thursday as well.
How did you manage and to be such a lucky individual as to be the one that is having to work on their budget?
Because the chair bounces between the two town managers, and their town manager, that they had this past go-round was, leaving. She had already, submitted her, intent to retire for other reasons, that belong to them. She ended up leaving beforehand, so now I've landed with the budget for this year.
Now, and I'm not 100% sure on all this, but the water authority is autonomous, and so we're members of the water authority. At what point do we voluntarily provide administrative services and not get any compensation for it in the form of you having to do all the budget work? Is that normal? Is that something that everybody's just always agreed would happen that way? There's not any funds in the budget of the water authority to pay any administrative fees, so that you're having to do all this work for the water authority and not get compensated for it? Is that the way it is, and is that a good idea?
That is the way that it was set up by the original, pioneers in that idea. Is it the best idea? No, it's
No,
not.
it's not.
And that would be a discussion that I'm going to have with them, as we move forward, because it's, the water authority needs a manager that manages, whether it's a department head that reports to either the two, that reports to the chairman, or whether it is a, administrator that works at that facility, 5 days a week to manage it. It can function with a department head that reports to the chairman, but that still puts, which would limit the amount of work that is required of the chair to put into it. The administrative side of it, if you have a good department head, can be managed on day-to-day operations. And then the budget itself, I've worked on it, our ORC, which is, right now employed with, Town of Sparta, and his salary is compensated to us by the VCWA. The ORC and myself worked on the budget for the VCWA for a couple hours, and we were able to come to a conclusion on a very tight, budget for the VCWA, with very minute wiggle room to help alleviate both towns and hopefully, not cause any significant increases. In essence, unless something occurs with the board and unless something happens, which, that's out of our control, meaning something was to collapse, the VCWA's budget should get a strict diet this coming year, which should hopefully prevent us from having to, prevent either town from increasing rates.
And I'm not, it's just, we were never really made aware of how the water authority operated, this particular, well, I think that I knew that the town manager was the chairman, but, we're sort of greedy with you at this point in time because we have a whole lot of things for you to do and we're working on our own budget, so, I don't think it's fair for all that to be dumped on you and with no compensation, and if you're gonna bring that up to the board, then that's good. I think it shouldn't be. I don't know how the rest of you guys feel, but I don't think we ought to be providing you for free for them.
So I do wanna ask,
I think
whenever,
that should come as a recommendation.
whenever the town of Independence manager is doing this, are they doing the budget on their own? Is it every other year thing?
When they become the chairman, it's their responsibility to do the
The only reason I bring that up is we gotta keep in mind that we raised water rates last year. And the more we compensate out of that budget, the more we want to raise water rates, and I'm not a fan of raising the more rates.
Well, that's a good point too.
If they're getting it every other year, I mean, I'm not saying I'm against anybody getting compensated, but I think that we just need to be careful.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. In regards to the VCWA, as a chairman to that, I can say that we're going to implement, certain programs moving forward with them pending that the rest of the board, agrees with it and has no issues, that would help alleviate the necessary repairs and maintenance that needs to be done in the future. In essence, the big hit that was taken this past year should have been pre-planned, many years ago, not something that got brought up last minute.
Understood.
And that's something that I will discuss with the VCWA when we do this budget, is establishing a capital improvement fund that is restricted and cannot be accessed for any other purpose, capital improvement. And it goes back to the need for the ORC to be a department head that reports directly to the chair and to the vice chair, to let them know what's going on, and that would be the responsibility of that, department head to pre-plan and look at the budget, maintain the budget, and ensure that the VCWA stays, in line. The same way that I treat our department heads here, the same way that person would be treated. And I would expect, when, in 2 years, when the chair, or if they do it every year, when the chair position volleys back to the town of Independence, I would be, if I take the vice chair position, which is the way that they've normally maintained in the past, I would expect that the ORC, regardless of what town they're located in, should again report to the chair at that point in time. So that's something I'm gonna discuss with them. You know, if our employee remains ORC for the next 10 years, at some point in time, that chair is going to be at the time of independence. And I would, if the BCWA agrees to the changes that I'm recommending for them, then I would obviously authorize our employee, who's ORC, to visit the town manager on that end and work on the budget with them, because that's the only way to do it.
Okay. Sounds like,
So it's all pending next Thursday.
So what do we need to do on this promissory note?
I need the council to, make a motion to rescind that vote to, forgive that promissory note. If the town of Independence agrees to forgive their promissory note moving forward, that will, bring that line item down to zero. It will be reported by the BCWA that they've done it. And then we would do the same thing, and that would save the BCWA $38,000 a year. And
Sure.
the towns would gain invested capital into that.
So we need a motion to rescind the vote on the promissory note from the previous meeting.
Yes, sir.
I make that motion.
second,
Is that what you recommend?
My recommendation is we do that unless, that we rescind that
We can
vote.
revisit that later.
Right, until the town of Independence elects to forgive their debt, and both towns agree to it.
Okay. Got a second, we got a motion and a second, all in favor? 5-0. Okay. Moving on, we got the farmer's market discussion. There again, Jose, you got the floor.
Council, that actually brings up two different things. The first one is we need to, if council will look, there's a fifth Monday in this month. If you remember, the county manager at his last meeting requested that both government bodies get together once a quarter, which would be the fifth Monday of every month, and have a joint meeting with each other. I just want to give you a update that I did speak to the county in regards to the farmer's market. The farmer's market is not necessarily ran by the county. It's ran through the North Carolina, extension, but the county oversees that department in each individual county that they're in. It was brought to my attention that the farmer's market has a $50 annual subscription or annual fee for the farmers or for the vendors to set up. I had that discussion with the county. They're gonna be coming to us to discuss what that budget, how that money is utilized and where that, what their budget is. In essence, I pretty much showed the county, our council needs to be made aware that we are allowing you to utilize this building. We pay for the electricity, we pay for the upkeep of the building,
and insurance.
and insurance, and we don't charge the county or the North Carolina, extension anything for that facility. If you're charging $50 so that you can operate that venue, you need to come to us and let us know that you are making no profit off of this and where the money goes to. Because if you make a profit, then we're gonna have to negotiate this. So this is just more for your informational purposes. I did have that discussion with them. They're gonna be coming to, a council meeting. That's gonna be a topic of discussion, at the joint meeting, which we'll try to set a time for that joint meeting. It's gonna be the last Monday. We'll try to set a time for the joint meeting with them, and I'll talk to Mr. Shipley about that. And hopefully, at this point in time, do you have any recommendations or suggestions to what you want from the county on that aspect of Mercer Farmers Market.
Just some reporting, so we know where the money's going, and if that's $50 for every $50 per vendor. Now, that's whether they set up one time or 12 times, and they're doing well with it, which is good. So, yeah, where's it going? If we're paying all the expenses, we own the property, so I think it would be interesting to know just what you said, where the funds are going.
Yeah, that was a conversation I had with him, and moving on with that conversation, we also discussed disconnecting the power to that facility during the winter months when they're not utilizing it. So that's something that the co-op and myself are gonna be working with to determine the appropriate times to disconnect power, and tell them that they're gonna have to make sure that that cooler, it's a commercial refrigerator, has to be cleared out. Just to kind of cut back on the power at that one time.
Because it's sitting there all winter long, whether it's got anything in it or not, we're paying the power.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
That's probably not an ideal situation.
And that was a discussion with them, was trying to cut back on the cost of utilizing utilities on that side.
Sounds like a good thing to discuss, I remember the first joint meeting, so.
I don't remember a lot about it, I was around the county whenever that was being built. Is there anything in writing from that time where the county gives some money to build that, but I don't know if the town had anything to do with it or not?
There was, I don't have it with me, there was an agreement by the town manager at that point in time that we would continue to assist with the upkeep of that facility. But that agreement timed out in 2020, so we're gonna have to, and that was another thing, that they provided that to me, and I told them, I said, well, this is outdated, so there needs to be a new agreement. The North Carolina Extension is actually, their office is actually working to create an agreement. And that was another reason I wanted to see if there's anything specific, that was very clear to them that they cannot show a profit off of that. And it's $50 a year, and they're gonna come and present to the council, so the council's aware of what's occurring, with that money. And I told them, at the end of the day, it's, you look at it from a property owner's perspective. If I lend you, if you look at it from, say, a mortgage perspective, if I let you stay at a house for free, I just stay at my house for free, and I don't know that you're making a profit off of it, then we're gonna have a problem after that, right? So in this case there, I just told him, we need the information so that we know what's been charged. We determine that that's the correct rate, and then, that would allow us to say, this rate has to remain set for X amount of time. In which case, whenever that rate has to be increased, it would have to be renegotiated with us unless we put certain stipulations that will allow them to raise the rates without having to renegotiate that contract every so often.
And in your desire to monitor all of our assets, I think that certainly falls in that category. It is our asset. It is, what's sitting in our park. So
Yeah.
it needs to be looked at, and it wasn't before, of course, nobody ever asked, I guess. That's what we, but yeah, I think we need to have that discussion.
Yeah, it's our asset. If it was to catch fire, our insurance would have to cover it. It wouldn't be their insurance or anything.
So hopefully we can take care of that questions at the budget meeting. Okay. 2025, 2026 budget discussion.
So council, this is our first budget discussion. It's gonna be, I'm not 100% sure to how you've had it in the past. What I will say is today is a lot of discovery. It's what I refer to as our discovery meeting. In front of you, you have the current budget versus actual. Peggy and I have gone through, we looked at a couple things. We're trying to figure out line items that we can cut. But before we get into the number crunching and before we look at all that, I want to encourage council to give me input on what you would like to see in the budget. What are some of the items that you would like to discuss? I think it's very important that you, as the elected officials by the citizens of the town, are able to express your desires and your wishes that constituents may have given you, moving forward. You know, I could easily turn back around, create a budget with a bunch of numbers, give it to you and say, this is the best, this is gonna be the, what we need to go for, but you would have no input. It is my desire that council have an input into the budget, and then Peggy and I can sit down, review your requests, and break them down. And no request is too silly, no request is too big, no request is too small. Anything that you would like to see or done, I have a couple of things that I would like to see us work for in the budget. But before we get into those, I'd like to open it up to council to make recommendations.
You already have before us a special appropriations policy, and special appropriations is a minor amount in the whole big scheme of the world. But it also has a lot of, it needs to be discussed because it's never been discussed before as to why we give the money first. And you already touched on that. Otherwise, personally, I think that I was on the board of commissioners in 2007, and the economy had been shaky and things were coming to a head. And I wasn't any sort of a brilliant person, but I told my fellow commissioners and Don Adams, I said, we need to be prepared for the worst, hope for the best, prepared for the worst, for a similar situation. So regardless of what happens on the national level, state level, as you said from your meeting that you had last week in the seminar, we need to prepare for the worst. So my desire would be just to look over each department, look over these line items that you have out, and just if anybody feels like anything is too much or too little, but we need to mind a penny because we don't know what's gonna happen.
That's correct, and I'm glad you brought that up, because actually, we have those appropriations, and we actually need to make a motion on those to adopt, the appropriation request. And Councilman Green, can I see your appropriation request? Oh, yes, I'll do that.
That's it.
I'll go back to you.
That's fine.
So the first one is the Town of Sparta Special Appropriation Policy. Now I'm gonna go ahead and let council know that I did not invent this wheel. I borrowed the wheel from somebody else. And I went through it, I looked for it. There's several things in it that I like. I did remove a couple of things that do not pertain to us. This specific municipality, actually has a 20-page manual, that specifies appropriations, gives examples of what is and is not authorized by the appropriations. And it specifies the vision and mission statements of that municipality and how those are aligned. That's a manual that we're going to dig into because it's a very good manual, it's a very good resource. And that's a manual that we're gonna dig into, and we're probably going to look into adapting to the town of Sparta, doing some additions and some subtractions from their overall manual, and possibly adopting that in the coming fiscal year, not this one, but the next one. But what I did pull from them was their policy. They had a policy, and the policy is short, sweet, simple, and it provides directives to those that are desiring to provide, to request appropriations. In essence, a local government, and I'm gonna read section 3.4. A local government may contract with not 3.4, I'm sorry. 3.1, the three key legal limitations to the expenditures of public funds are: number one, the expenditure be for a public purpose; number two, the activity supported be one which the local government has the statutory authority to engage; and three, the expenditure not be inconsistent with the laws or the constitution of the state or federal government, which goes into 3.2. The courts have used two guiding principles in determining whether a particular activity is for public purpose: whether it involves a reasonable connection with the convenience and necessity of the local government, and two, whether it benefits the public generally as opposed to special interest or person. Benefits the public generally is a key component right there. And it goes back to a couple conversations that, I've had in the past, and I just had a conversation with Councilman Millie. We, when you're looking at these appropriations, there are several things that municipalities offer, but just because a municipality somewhere else offers it, does not mean that we have to offer it ourselves. Some services, we just don't have the capacity to offer, but if someone wants to request some assistance so they can offer that service, I encourage council to ensure that these individuals offer the service to our citizens. And it impacts our citizens directly because this appropriation comes from general fund, which comes from our citizens' taxes. If it's a service that does not benefit our citizens, and that doesn't mean that we're not concerned with the citizens or the residents of the county, but we don't receive any funding from the county taxes. We receive our funding from town taxes, and our town residents already pay a county tax on top of their town tax. So the services that we provide here, or the appropriations for individuals, need to benefit our citizens, not just county citizens as well. So if it's a entity that charges fees, it's up to council to decide how you want to look at those, and how they assess fees, for county versus, residential citizens in the town itself. Again, because this is coming out of our town taxes, not out of any other tax board. So I'll give you a couple minutes, look over it, ask questions. I'm more than glad to answer any questions, to the special appropriation policy. If council is okay with it, we can adopt it today. If you wanna take it home, look at it, we can adopt it another day. If you adopt it today, we'll go ahead and send a letter out to the usual entities that request appropriations and let them know that this is gonna be the new adopted policy.
I myself would like to have a little bit of time just to really look over it, but
That's fine.
whatever the board wants to do.
And we're gonna have several meetings for budget sessions, and we can look over it, bring it up at the next meeting if you want to, we can adopt it at that point in time, or make changes to it before we adopt it. We have, and while we don't really wanna push to June 30th, but we do have to June 30th to get our budget, in line. And like I told you, I'm looking to be more council involved and council participation. This is the first year I do a budget with you, but we will, beginning in July, we'll actually have a timeline that will be published to council that lets you know what every so often, what stage we are in budget. So your specific request for the 26-27 fiscal year budget will actually be, I'll actually request those to come in a lot earlier than what we are right now. But that is, if you would like some more time to review it, I'm perfectly fine with that. It's not a rush to get it in, because we can always send letters for appropriation requests at a later time.
It's good, but there's a lot to it.
A lot to it.
There is a lot to it.
Well, I mean, it's-
Councilman Josh, I'd like to have a little more time to look over it.
Yes, sir, that's fine. And the second page, is the contractual agreement that once a request is awarded to them, that contractual agreement will be signed by us and the party receiving that money, and specifies that, what they must do with that money and what they can and cannot do with that money. And, it allows us to oversee where those funds are being utilized. And again, I did not, and actually I'll tell you, if you go to the city of Hendersonville, they have the manual that I utilize to pull a lot of their data from. They've adopted it in 2015, revised it in 2022, so that's the most updated manual that they had. And their appropriations fund is a lot bigger than what we would have.
In the very last paragraph on, page 2,
Yes, sir.
down near the bottom, when it's talking about, signing the special appropriations funding agreement, it says that the town manager or mayor shall have the authority to sign the special appropriations funding agreement. Why would the mayor need authority to sign that special appropriations agreement?
A lot of the documentations, the resolutions are signed by the mayors, not by the town managers.
Isn't that where the mayor is also the manager? There's two different.
No,
That just seems outside mayoral responsibilities to me.
Yes.
Although this is a legally binding document, is that not right?
it is, what it is those are normally the contracts or it looks like a resolution, but it's a contract. It can be signed by the mayor or town manager. If the mayor was absent, the town manager could sign it. But nothing would be given to them to sign without council's approval. So it first have to be approved by council before. Now, we can eliminate the mayor.
Did you say it said or, is that what you said? I don't.
It's or.
It's,
Town
Or
manager
was
or-
made it and, both,
We can do both. We can
Or
do,
just one.
make
I don't
both
care
individuals
either way.
sign.
just staying outside the box.
but the key point is that the mayor or the manager doesn't sign anything till we approve it.
Yeah, nothing would have to, and that's the thing about the whole policy itself requires for it to be approved by council before anybody can sign it. I couldn't sign it without council's approval because it affects the entire budget. And these items would have to be approved in the budget before we could, do that contractual agreement.
Okay.
And some bigger municipalities, I'm assuming that they do them because it's how would I say, a public relations, you have the mayor presenting.
Make the mayor look good.
Have the mayor presenting the contractual agreement with him, and they may do a televised signing with him.
I like Josh's suggestion there, where instead of or, it is and.
Okay, we can change it then,
So then you both,
or signing,
are signing it.
yes, sir, we can do that.
If that, I mean, that's just my opinion, I don't,
No,
that would be.
So, do we need to vote on tabling it, or?
No, it's up, I mean, you have it, we know it's gonna be discussed, we will not seek appropriation requests from anybody until we determine that we're either gonna follow this policy or we just go ahead and accept appropriation requests. At this point in time, we have not accepted nobody's appropriation request until we've had this first meeting and we discuss it.
I would think we would wanna have, an appropriations policy before we accepted any appropriations. We're kind of starting into a new budget year, and we've talked a lot about fees and fee schedules, and a lot of things are gonna be different in this budget process, so I would really, like for us to have that policy in place before we started talking anymore about appropriations.
As well.
And that way we have a guideline to go by when we're listening to one, and we can be consistent.
That'd be perfect. The only thing I would ask is if we just do a motion to not accept appropriations until council, adopted policy. Just that way, in case someone comes in and says, why don't I give it to you?
I'll make
It's under,
that motion.
okay.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Final? If that's it,
Well, hang on, you was asking about what the council's looking for on the budget.
Yeah, so, and Millie brought that up, and before I forgot, I wanted to bring it up. So, with that, so now we go back to the original question is, council, do you have any recommendations, suggestions, anything that you would like to see in the upcoming budget?
I do, and that's just because I get to hear it all the time, in the general public's eye. So I know that we're tied into a lease agreement with the police cars and some of the maintenance trucks. And I understand that we pay for maintenance and we pay for gas and we pay for this, and I would really like to have a lot of discussion on that department's budget, because I feel like there is a lot of money there. I know that we're in the lease and tied to it for so many years and all this, but I mean, that's just, I would really like to focus on the police department budget this year. That's me talking personally.
And I've had questions as well, Josh, it's not this year.
I've had questions a lot too, when I first got about the gas deal, driving where they drive and how much that's costing taxpayers money. And I'll just tell you what, I go to Wilkesboro a lot to chiropractor, and it does bite me when I do see a town car on the mountain thinking, well, you know, I'll probably get no phone call. But I don't know, so like, and by that, I've got to get out of here, Jose.
Yes, sir.
There's something come up that I couldn't handle, and I've got to be up there or go eat, okay?
We're gonna have some more meetings.
I figured y'all just give me a holler, guys. Y'all
We're
don't
gonna
need
have more
much on the budget anyway, y'all got some smart ones here, so I hate to do this, but something just come up and I've got to go get the young lady.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, see y'all.
Hey, Kurt.
But, I was gonna ask you that question, I was kind of looking at too.
In regards to that, that's not a problem, we can look into it. In regards to the lease program itself, and I actually had a discussion with Millie shortly after I had come here, me and her had gone out to look at, one of the roads during that road paving project. I don't think this was, informed the council very well on how the lease program actually works with the town, and enterprise, so give me a minute, I'll explain it. So the town purchased, and I say purchased because we are technically gonna purchase these vehicles. All these vehicles at one time, and enterprise basically, you work as a bank at that point in time. So even though it's a lease, we can trade it in. Enterprise work as a bank. Now, the police vehicles versus maintenance are two separate packages. The maintenance for these pickup trucks, the maintenance for them, if the engine blows, if we need to get preventive maintenance on them, anything with those pickup trucks, it's 100% covered through enterprise. That is not the same story with the police department. And the reason that's not the same story with the police department is, even though we had the chargers with the police department, those chargers have a pursuit package on them. And enterprise realizes that those vehicles are gonna get beat up, are gonna get tore up, they're gonna run them off the road, run them through ditches, they're gonna accelerate quickly, and they're gonna brake fast, which is gonna wear and tear that vehicle a lot faster than these trucks over here that are only driving around to check meters, or driving around to check on different issues. So the police department, and we actually had this discussion, I requested a meeting with Enterprise, Peggy, the police department, and Kevin, and Megan at that point in time, because I wanted to get a better understanding of what was occurring. The police department, in essence, did not have a big maintenance budget, because their impression was that, well, everything is covered. But that's not the case. If we have to get that vehicle serviced, we have to buy tires for it, if the engine messes up, it falls back to the town. We have to turn back around, and we have to pay for that out of our pocket. So in essence, we purchase the vehicle like you would anywhere else within there. And if it's not covered under the warranty of the vehicle, then it falls back on us to cover it. Whereas to these other vehicles are completely covered by the enterprise itself.
So that's service and everything.
That's service and everything. So the maintenance vehicles are covered because they're not a pursuit vehicle.
Yeah.
Which leads to the next question is, the police department actually has a vehicle that has been giving them, a lot of issues. And that vehicle is actually assigned to one of their full-time individuals. So they asked for a different vehicle. This person doesn't do daily patrols. This is the detective's vehicle. I requested a price from Enterprise on what that vehicle would cost. But that vehicle would not be a pursuit vehicle because it's not utilized for that. So that would save us in the long run having to pay for maintenance on that vehicle, because that vehicle didn't be purchased. Even though Enterprise knows it's going to be utilized for the police department, or our Enterprise, agent knows, it's not a pursuit vehicle. And it all boils down to what package that you get. If you get that pursuit package, it automatically kicks off the maintenance package.
And while we're on the topic, as Josh says, I've had questions. And this was the understanding I got, that the police had always had their maintenance done by a certain garage in town, and that's just the way it always was. Now, we have multiple people out here that have garages and do maintenance. So I think that it would behoove us to look at that whole scenario and, where we're getting our work done. And I'm not saying that any of these garages are not excellent, they're good, and I know most of them, and they're all good. But at what point do we say everybody should be able to bid on this work, or is that something we need to do? I'm asking my fellow council members and you, because I've had this question asked to me.
So I actually had that discussion with him because there was a lot of questions on the enterprise aspect of it. Even though they're not part of the package, of the maintenance package, they still have to input the information to enterprise, so enterprise can keep up with it. Because at the end of the 5 years, we have the option to purchase a vehicle outright from enterprise, or we can trade it in and get equity off that vehicle geared towards a new vehicle. With that said, enterprise likes to keep track of any repairs or any maintenance that's been occurred to that vehicle. There was one garage that, when this got set up, they actually, enterprise set up the computer system with them and agreed to it. And that was a garage that the, police department, agreed on. Is that correct, Peggy?
That's the one, well, we sent it out to all of them, but this one garage only agreed to work with, Enterprise.
With enterprise, so the other ones did not. Now, that was under the idea that, we would have to turn back, that they were under the impression at that point in time that the maintenance was covered. When they realized maintenance wasn't covered, I actually asked that question to Enterprise, well, is it because the garage is not covered, or what is the deal? And their specification was, it's not that the garage isn't covered, it's because it's a pursuit vehicle, but you can utilize any garage for the police vehicles that you want to, because you have to pay for that maintenance itself. Now, the maintenance vehicles have to utilize that one specific garage, because that's the only garage that agreed to abide by the rules and regulations established by Enterprise. So by us sending our maintenance vehicles to that garage, we don't have to pay anything for the maintenance of those. And again, that's gonna be servicing and any mechanical work that has to be done. So the other garages have to agree to Enterprise's software request for them to be able to be into the network.
And wouldn't it be a good idea to make that offer again, since we're sort of a new board and so forth, just in case?
Yeah, we can offer it to the other garages. That's not a problem. We can offer it to them.
Then nobody can come say to me, well, why are all these cars going one place and not going somewhere else?
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
know roughly when that was signed, that lease? When it was started? You don't have to give me exact, I just wanted to hear.
23,
23?
was it?
It was signed in 23, we got the vehicles in signed in 22, we got the vehicles in 23, we had to
So
wait a
we're
year.
looking at 28.
And that's also something else I do want to let council know. when my discussion with Enterprise and everybody else here, when the police vehicles came here, they sat here for a while with no striping, no nothing, and we started paying on that vehicle. Moving forward, if we continue to go with Enterprise, we're not accepting a vehicle from Enterprise until it comes back striped with lights and ready to go, because as soon as that vehicle enters our parking lot, we assume payments for that vehicle moving forward. So I did talk with Enterprise and I asked them, I said, well, in the future, if I decide to buy a police vehicle or lease a police vehicle, and I say buy because they interchange the words a lot. If we go with Enterprise for police vehicles and and I know that I want, we're gonna start paying for it, Enterprise will actually take care of ensuring that the lights are put in the vehicle is striped, the inside carriage is put into that vehicle. So when that police vehicle pulls into this parking lot, it needs to have a police officer and their equipment put into it, and it's good to go. So today that we start paying on it, that vehicle goes in service.
Well, excuse me, go ahead.
Words did not occur this last go around because, I don't know if it just wasn't asked or it wasn't.
That was my question.
What was the reason it didn't happen, but, I spoke to, Ms. Riley Stone, who was our agent at that point in time, and actually just spoke to her last month about the new vehicle quote. I spoke to her, she's moved up to be a manager now, but she said, you can still call me if you have any questions, and, I asked her, I wanna ensure that we're still looking at the vehicle enters our parking lot, ready for service on day one. She said, yes. That may delay us getting that vehicle because it's in line to get, fully, prepped, but we don't pay a dime until that vehicle enters our parking lot.
Is it possible that we thought we could get them striped and outfitted cheaper? I know they were sent to.
We had
Dallas or
state
something.
contract at the time that we were getting them, and then, COVID was going on, some went out of business, and it just prolonged the process.
Okay.
So my goal with asking Enterprise about that is to not pay
Right, they have them sitting in the parking lot.
to sit in the parking lot, and when that vehicle comes in and we start paying, it's on the road at that same day or the next day, it's on the road being utilized.
So the maintenance that's actually done by local garages is on the trucks and on the police cars.
Yes.
But Enterprise pays all the truck, but not all the police cars.
Correct, but the police cars have a pursuit package, so Enterprise does not cover those.
But the local garages are doing the work.
Yes, ma'am.
So if they agree to work on a police car, they gotta agree to work on a maintenance truck and vice versa. And they gotta use the software that Enterprise.
That is correct. And now, the police cars don't necessarily have to go to the same place that the, maintenance trucks do.
But any garage that works on anything that we have leased and or it's lease purchase is proper terminology. But anything that we have, whether it's a police car, whether it's a maintenance truck, the maintenance and the work can be done at whatever garage, any garage that has that has the software and is agreeable to do it, correct?
We
Yes,
do
ma'am.
have vehicles that are not leased, that they take to other, garages around town, like, we do have a few vehicles that are not leased by the police department.
got a lot of vehicles.
And we have, a few vehicles not leased by
Right.
the maintenance department, so,
Right.
yeah.
So when we offer this out to the public, then we need to make these folks aware that unless they have the proper software to coordinate with Enterprise, they're not gonna get any work from us, period.
That's correct.
If we have 4 garages that decide to have that, then how do we decide where to go, rotation?
Yeah, they can just rotate and see who's
I mean,
who's
these are
available.
questions that I've been asking,
Yeah.
we're gonna be asked.
If we have 4 garages that agree to abide by Enterprise's rules and follow the request Enterprise makes, then what would happen is we could just put a rotation
Right.
and or we can call and say, hey, we have 3 trucks that need to be serviced, and if they say, well, I can't get them until next week, but the other garage can get them,
Right, and that's
this
fine.
week, then we can divvy it up.
So do you all agree that we ought to put this out to the public again? Do we need to make that motion, or is this just part of our discussion for the budget, or what do y'all think?
This is part of our discussion, and we can reach out to them and ask them if they want to do it.
They
That's
may
all.
not want to, they may say, look, we don't want to fool with it.
Yeah.
But
Well,
we
it's,
need to have that option.
yeah, it's similar to the, I'll use for example, the towing
Yes,
update that we did.
yes, exactly.
We have not received no other request from anybody in town because they don't wanna abide by the rules that are established.
And the other garages may not, but just to cover our bases out.
I'd say, you know, we just have to discuss with the garages and see who's willing to abide by the enterprise contract.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's, if we just got one, we got one.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we've always got to reach out and ask them to,
and that's all we can do.
Can I ask another budget question, just so I can simplify my brain here?
yes, sir.
I'm looking through here and I see like, maintenance of building, and I'm sure this has something to do with moving numbers around. It's over on page 5 of 11 up towards the top. It's showing a 3,384%. What is that?
Oh,
It's the same question. Let me explain that to you.
we had some of these units to go out, this is for this building here.
Okay,
We had several of those units to go out, plus we had the central air went out.
okay,
So it cost
okay.
that much, but what I'm getting ready to do is do a budget amendment, we just wanted to get them
I
all
figured there
in.
was some.
Yeah,
Okay,
so we had several of them to go out this year
okay.
at one time.
That percentage is like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, I mean, you're correct in asking for that, and that's, that's a good question, I ask the same thing. Cause by that percentage, we are $32,000 over budget. So
Well, it
we'll
was
have to move
$1,000 put in there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so we'd have to move stuff to make
Yeah.
that line item even out.
And to your point about, pre-planning, these units just didn't up and fall apart all of a sudden because nobody knew how old they were. And previously there was a lot of money dumped into this building to do a lot of cosmetic things that maybe those units should have been looked at so that it just didn't come up and all of a sudden they all went out. So that goes back to what you're saying, we need to look at our assets, look and plan for things because these units have got a lifespan and they're gonna go out and so, we need to put that into our maintenance schedule, looking at these things so they don't just blindsides would be my fault.
Yeah, and, yeah, that's why, and you're correct, Councilman, we've, Peggy and I actually went through and looked at all the expenses, because we don't really focus on revenue until you focus on your expenses, and we've tried to create a budget diet as much as we could and try to cut back on some of these items, and realize that some things, such as building, it had a $1,000 line item to it.
Oh, yeah, just forgive me just a minute, we will get reimbursed, we had the roof put on too from Helene, and they came in, so insurance will also, that's part of insurance, will be reimbursed for that too.
And for the public's general knowledge, there's a lot of percentages in revenues too, so it's not that I'm just picking on you
No,
guys.
no,
That number just jumped out.
I forgot, we had the whole roof, and that was $29,000, that's part of this, right here, but we're gonna get reimbursed for that.
But like that line item itself, we may do a
We'll do a budget
$5,000 line item the next budget.
Yeah.
And,
So-
to kind of give us a bigger cushion. 'Cause at the end of the day, and this is what I told Peggy yesterday, there's some items we're gonna cut back on, and there's some items we're gonna go up on. And what we're cutting back on is the items that we see still have a substantial amount remaining. And what we're gonna add to are items that we see that are nearing the red or in the red. Because at the end of the day, I would rather us have more remaining in a specific line item than to have that line item run out.
Right.
That's the ultimate goal with the budget.
And then you said the roof was replaced,
Mhm.
and when did all that take place?
The roof was replaced last month.
No, that was, and so the lien relief money's paid for that.
The insurance is paying for that.
The insurance paid for it, we're gonna get it back from the relief money, or?
No, we're not doing
on
it.
that.
It's coming back from my insurance.
Just insurance, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
We paid $1,000
That
deductible,
over, yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's
Okay.
in the insurance
and
pays.
they're gonna pay us $20-some thousand for the roof. So we have a new roof here, and then the roof at Kraus Park cost us $1,800 to repair.
What roof at
That's good.
Crash Park?
On the stage, cost $1,800, and they're gonna pay us
Yeah, yeah.
on that one as well.
Okay.
I'm done, Mike, sorry.
Are you done? Okay, any more business here?
Just wanted to make you aware that you do have a liquidity snapshot for the town years.
Liquidity.
Thank you, Billy, for saying that. And also, the financial performance overview of the fund balance for the last 6 years. Did everybody get a copy?
Didn't get the liquidity or whatever you said there. Yeah, we can correct it.
Liquidation.
Yeah, we can all read liability, that ain't what we all understand it, or liquidity.
Yeah, thank
That's
you,
all right,
Billy.
I got this over.
Okay.
Now, when we come back for our next budget meeting, are you gonna have a proposed budget for us to look at that point?
So we will
With your
be,
changes in red or something different, so we can distinguish those from this year's budget?
yes, so when we come back, if, the purpose of today is, like I told you.
Discovery, you said,
And
discovery.
right, and I want you to look at stuff, I want you to give me information, you can call me, email me, text me some ideas, I don't have a problem with that. I've got a list of stuff I'm writing out, and unless council has other stuff I look at, I'll tell you a couple things I wanna work on as we go into the budget. And that way y'all get your opinion on it. But yes, we should, when we come back for the next budget session, we should start looking at the, actual numbers and start crunching numbers for departments. My next meeting here, on Friday is gonna be with the department heads. And they have been told that I need them to provide me a list of their necessities and then their wishes and wants. But I need the necessities first, because that's what needs to be taken care of. And then we look at if there's any additional funding to do the other line items that they desire.
But it will be broken down to where we'll see this year. And then we'll see, yeah, I just give you that for the overview, but it'll be much simpler for you to look at.
About
what
like
we
last
budget-
year,
Yeah, what we
Okay.
budgeted this year and what we plan to budget for next year.
look very similar to what we done last year, yeah.
And
Yeah.
what my intention is that we have, 2 or 3 or more, if council wants more of these, meetings where we get notes, you ask questions, I answer your questions. We kinda get ideas to what was happening before I present to you the budget message and
Right.
before I present to you the first proposed budget. Once that first proposed budget goes out, then of course, council looks at it, determines what you like, don't like about it, what you'd like to see changed to it. And then after those changes are made, when we come back, I present it to council again. If council is fine with it, then we open it up to public input as well.
Right.
And then, hopefully if we have whatever public input we have, council can discuss that, and council can then move forward to either approve the budget or go back and revisit the budget again. Like I told you, we have until June 30th to finalize the budget. What I don't wanna do is expedite the process and something be left out that, council feels that they didn't get a chance to discuss or review or dig deep into. And anything that you see, we can dig deep into and discuss.
What percentage, as we're looking down through here, and I say something that say we're 70%
Right.
of budget to expenditures so far for this year.
Mhm.
How much, what percentage would you say of this calendar year is left to work through that budget amount?
About 50%, because some money has not been appropriated. If you look at the first one for your revenue, it's $491,703 that we, budgeted for last year to use. Well, there were some items that needs to be taken from this particular line item for revenue, which will up your revenue about 50%. So halfway through, our revenues are more than our expenses, it's just not showing at this time. And you all will see that when I do a budget amendment at the next meeting, where I will start moving some appropriations so that it offsets. Plus, we haven't received all our money from the state for our taxes and for our local option sales tax, as well as our franchise tax. So we'll get another big hit the 15th of this month, that's not showing in this budget.
But if I'm just going through this, and just say salaries and wages,
Right.
for example,
Mhm.
and say we're showing that 50% of expenditure
Right.
towards
Which,
budget,
Yeah,
then we're pretty
Yeah,
much
we're good.
in line.
right, we're in
That's-
line with what
so,
the budget, yes.
But if I'm at 70%, I don't have any way to know, or if we're at 107%, say, I don't have any way to know if all that is done, or if there's another hit coming
So-
until you bring
Right.
us the next one.
And also, if you'll see within like the 10-420s, if you
Mm-hmm.
look at that, if you see there are, particular accounts that has a lot of money still in them.
Yeah.
So what we do is, we just move that money up to an account that may be, almost at 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So we balance within that department.
Within the 420s.
Yes, that's how I do
So
it.
you can move money
Yes,
around in that
Yeah,
section.
council, at the budget, at the end of the budget, y'all give me permission that if there's money in that particular, department,
Yeah.
then I'll fix it to make it even out,
Okay,
yes.
so the 107s may end up at 90s if you
Right.
have one that's gonna be 45% and never reach full
Right.
100%.
And if you see down here, 10-4-20-74,
Yeah.
we haven't even touched that.
Yeah.
So that money will probably be moved up into a line item that may be short.
Okay,
Because we had,
but that was not a capital expenditure specific line
No.
item, that was
No.
just,
Right.
you were more of a contingency for capital
well,
spending.
we put that in there just in case you have to get a computer or something.
Yeah.
Because we had $5,000, so we put it there.
Yeah.
But if we don't have to expend that money,
Yeah.
then we just move it up to another line item
Okay.
to make sure it's.
But
covered.
you can't do that from department to department, only within department.
We can't go from general fund, correction, we can't go from the enterprise fund, which is gonna be the water and sewer, to the general fund. Now,
Yeah.
we can
But
do,
within the general fund,
Now, I cannot take from police department without y'all's permission.
okay, that was
So I have
where
to come to
that was
you
my
all with
question.
my budget amendment,
Yeah,
say we have
okay.
a lot of money left over in an account in the police department. What you'll see for me is saying, this is over, we have a lot of money in this account, I need to move it up to the administration. So I'll do a budget amendment to let you know where I'm moving this money from in order to balance that.
And the reason I ask that is because if there's a lot of movement in there, we can't see as a board what's over budget
Right,
or what's under budget.
Right.
In order for us to come back and say, and be able to talk intelligently about the budget and say, okay, well, this line item right here, we're consistently spending 50% under budget, we can
Right.
cut that, but we're consistently spending
right.
20% over in this other one. If it's moving around, if it's moving target, we'll never know that.
yeah,
But we just know by department whether or
Right.
not we're hitting that number or
And
not.
then see, right here, we're at 68%, so
Mhm.
we are under what we projected.
Yeah.
For expenses, so if it stays that way, I won't have to move any money from that department from anywhere, because I still have enough money to take care of this department.
And an example being when we had, 425,000 gallons of water run out on the ground. And I'm like, how we gonna pay for it? Well, you had already budgeted for so much
Right.
water, and we hadn't used as much water. So there was money in that
69's a good.
in that line item, yes, sir.
to cover that unpredicted loss of.
Right.
And some items, we're gonna be better off to add a cushion to it, to protect us, so that we don't run into, especially when you're discussing, enterprise. Because if we get low on enterprise, then that's when the state starts, really
Come
harping
up
down.
here and and offer to run it for us.
Yes, ma'am.
But there's a fine line between cushion and
And over.
overdoing it
Yes,
so that you have to somehow come up with that revenue to cover.
right,
Right,
correct,
right.
and that's
And we know
where,
where that comes from, and that's what,
yeah,
you know,
and that's where like some line items, if you're looking, and what we'll do is at the end of March, that will be 3 complete quarters, is you'll have the third one, so anything that has not reached its 75% or anything above 70%, you know that we've either under or over, or some items, you tend to spend more at the end than you do at the beginning. It gives you a better idea as to where you're at there.
and you will have washed a lot of that through by the end of the
Yeah,
third quarter.
yeah,
Okay.
but I will do a budget amendment for next month's meeting, so most of this will be already taken care of
Okay.
in line.
Yeah, so we should have more clear numbers that you can see, and we can start, digging those numbers to determine what we need to go up in and what we need to go down in.
Okay, is there any more discussion?
We need to set the next meeting.
Yes,
Yes, but there's a couple of things I want you I'll make you aware of that I'd like to work on and see if council has any, input on. So we've discussed in prior meetings, employee packages, employee benefits themselves. We are waiting to hear back from the North Carolina League on, and it's now the Hill Group that's taking over the dental, the vision, the short-term disability, and, death insurance. The North Carolina League of Municipality had provided those to us through a vendor. That vendor has since then, disbanded, and effective June 30th, those premiums for those coverages will be ending for everyone that had them. We are actually reached out to 2 different companies, the Hill Group, which is now, aligned with the North Carolina League of Municipalities to provide pricing for it, and Mark III, that reached out, spoke to me, and Mark III actually reached out to me through the, App State Alumni Association, because on that email thread, there was a request by another town manager for information. I tagged along and replied to them that, I was looking for the same information, and that is, an App State Alumni Association specific thread, and that's how Mark III got a hold of me and let me know what they were doing, so we're just waiting for quotes to come back. The goal is still for us to provide the, insurance, the vision, the insurance, dental, and short-term disability, and the life insurance, the term life insurance. We are, however, waiting to see what those prices are. There will be an increase in insurance, so it's something that we may have to discuss. Currently, the town provides an 80-20 coverage to employees for your costs for the employees themselves. If they elect to do their children, or elect to do their family, that's something that they have to pay for themselves. Insurance premiums are gonna increase based on salaries, so it is going to affect us in various different factors. One option that we've discussed is dropping it down to 70-30 and let the employees pay the difference if they want the 80-20 plan still. We're gonna reach out to the league and talk to them about, making sure we don't run into any issues with that, with us agreeing to pay it that way, if that's the way we like to do it. If 80-20 seems to be too much for the town moving forward. A couple other things that I would like to look at is we are, looking at different employees for different positions, is, some of our personnel manual stuff. Vacation leave, I'd like to, change that up a little bit more to where it's broken down and employees can see an increase in their vacation time that has occurred in a shorter time frame. Currently, our policy says that between 1 and 2 years, you accumulate 3.34 hours every pay period of vacation and 4 hours of, leave for law enforcement. At 3 to 10 years, you can accumulate 6.6 hours at a time. And then after 11 year, after your 11th year, you accumulate 8.6 hours. And it never increases again. So the reason it's done that way though is the town's policy has always been 112 hours max that you can accumulate. Most government entities allow you to have 240 hours max on the book. And after 240 hours, that time will roll over into your sick time. We still do comp time for our maintenance personnel because they have on call. So one thing I'd like to look into with the budget session is increasing that 112 hours to 240 hours. That doesn't mean that everybody gets 240 hours every year. You have to accumulate that. But at the end of the calendar year, on December 31st at midnight, if you are at 250 hours, we're gonna take 10 hours and roll it over to your sick time. And sick time we accumulate indefinitely, and we allow you to take your sick time with you to another municipality or another government entity if you decide to go, and they accept it. In the same aspect, I'd like for us to update our personnel policy where now we accept their sick time from another government entity. So if a employee comes from the county, they've worked for the county for, say, 10 years, and they've accumulated 3,000 hours of sick time, then we can take that 3,000 hours of sick time, put it on our books. We don't pay out sick time when someone leaves, because that's a gift that is given to them. And the most that we would ever pay out for an employee on vacation time would be 240 hours. So say an employee wants to retire in June, and that employee has 280 hours, then we tell the employee, and we would have in our policy, that we're gonna pay you out 240 hours. So you have 40 hours of vacation that you need to use before your retirement date, or else you're gonna lose those 40 hours, unless you elect to donate those 40 hours to somebody else. That would encourage our employees to, it allows them to build up a bigger bank. And if they don't use it, which some employees don't use their vacation time, it helps expedite their retirement because they put it into their sick time. And now that we are part of the local government retirement system, you can utilize your sick time to retire early if you build that up. So that's one thing I would like to do is increase our max bank from 112 to 240 on vacation. And anything over 240 at the end of December just rolls over into your sick time. With that said, if we take employees from other facilities, currently, if you come in and you've had 15 years of government service at another agency, you come in and you start off at year 1 and you only get the bare minimum again. I would like to change that if council, this is a consideration, that we take your years of service from another government entity and apply that 4-year vacation time. Meaning that if you come in with 15 years and you start accumulating your time off at a rate of 15 years moving forward. Because again, the only thing we're gonna pay out is gonna be 240 at the max. And this is someone who's come in and we've allowed them to continue. It's a perk to say, well, look, I've got 15 years of government service. Maybe I want to finish off another 15 years at town of Sparta, but I don't have to start accumulating vacation back to, 3 hours every month. I can start accumulating. And a prime example is I looked at another entity and how they have theirs. Well, I let it out, but say if it's at 15 years, you're accumulating 10 hours every month, and you know that you're still gonna continue to accumulate. You come in, you accumulate 10 hours of vacation a month, and you can't go, 240 is your max at the end of the year, so every year you'll be back down to 240, and then whatever you gain after that, you should be able to take it. Some people may hold 240 hours all year long. And that's, you know, that's kudos to them because they're always showing up to work, not really taking time off. Our maintenance staff though will have to use their comp time, which is in our policy. Comp time will always be the first thing that has to be utilized, because comp time, we have to pay out 100% of it. You cannot deduct any of that from the employee's, pay. So, in that case, which it would be a lot for us to be able to get to that point on comp time, because if they take a day off, they take that off.
Does comp time have to be used in the same pay period, or can you carry it throughout the year? If you get comp time pushing snow in the winter, in January, can you use it in June? Or does it have to be used within the same pay period?
So it carries over, but we don't pay them comp time for coming in for coming in extra. If they're pushing snow and they're working extra, they're getting paid time and a half at that point in time.
How do they accrue comp time then?
So the way comp time is accrued is currently, if we have on-call staff.
Yes,
So on the weekends, if you're on call, you get 2 hours for Saturday and 2 hours for Sunday. Now, if you have to come in and you work, well, then you're gonna get paid for it, you don't get comp time. But if you were on call all weekend and you never had to come in to work, then you got 4 hours of overtime because you've dedicated that you cannot leave the town of Sparta because you are on call.
But you're not getting paid for that, that's 4 hours of comp time.
As
correct?
far as the comp time, so they get that 4 hours that they can take off.
actual work hours they are paid for.
Actual
The
work
comp
hours.
time only comes from unworked time, from on-call.
Correct.
Okay, I'm with you.
And that's something I wanna go back and look at as well, because currently it's 2 hours for Saturday, 2 hours for Sunday. But that same person that's on call is on call from Monday morning at 8 o'clock to the next Monday morning at 8 o'clock. So I want to look into how we account for the other 5 days that are in there. And again, if someone takes a day off, the first thing that has to be utilized is comp time before they can use either vacation time or sick time. That way it lowers the debt that we hold, that liability we hold to that employee moving forward. And that is, again, that's so we don't pay them for being on call and then they never do anything. So that's one thing I wanna look at on the benefits package, is that, of course, the insurance itself, which I already discussed to you, and let me see what the other one was. The goals for next year in regards to infrastructure itself. The main objective for next year is going to be to fix, rehab, and replace all hydrants in the town of Sparta that are malfunctioning.
Good.
Some of these hydrants are gonna require, some extensive work. When I say extensive work, meaning that we're gonna have to go through these lines, establish a fire loop, or just a connection to it that we can cut off and valve, so that if someone, hits that hydrant, or that hydrant fails, we can cut that hydrant off without disrupting the entire service itself. A prime example, on Dr. Street, we do have a leaking hydrant that has been leaking for a while. It is scheduled to be replaced, but it's actually going to cause that whole neighborhood, including the hospital, to be out of water, so we have to pre-plan that repair for that hydrant itself. When we get closer and to the repairs, we'll notify everyone that's gonna be involved of the expected time frame, how long it's gonna be to replace that. When that hydrant gets fixed, it's gonna have a cutoff valve. So if that hydrant is ever affected by the weather like it was this go round, we can go over there, we can cut off that hydrant and never affects the residents in that area. And aside from that, we can replace that hydrant and we never affected nobody else during that process.
Do any of our hydrants have cutoff valves now?
Some of them do and some of them do not. And the goal is to establish cutoff valves for every hydrant that doesn't have one and to replace the hydrants. Miss Peggy and I were looking at it the other day. We've estimated $5,000 a hydrant, because we're actually gonna get them, we can get them cheaper than $5,000 through our vendor, but we calculated about $160,000 in hydrants itself if we had about 50 hydrants. And that's 50 now. That does not mean that we're gonna buy 50 hydrants, because some of these hydrants have valves that are an issue. Some of them just need to be rehabbed, we're gonna take apart. But any hydrant that is a lead hydrant will be removed and replaced with a new non-lead hydrant.
And this is talking about questions, I've had questions in the past 4 or 5 years, people say, well, we got hydrants out here that don't work, we can do anything about it, you know? So, that was mentioned, but I appreciate you addressing that, because it needs to be done sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so I've actually, and I sat down and talked to Andy about it, the objective for next year's infrastructure is, and we are looking at the valves, the monitoring systems, like, Councilman Farron asked, one of the companies did let us know that they do have a system, and they're gonna provide some more information to us, but we are looking at the, I talked to Andy, another project, not in this coming fiscal year, but the next one, and we're gonna start putting money aside for, will be our storage tanks, our water storage tanks. They are in great need of repair and refurbishing, but I wanna push those out until the next fiscal year if possible, so we get a better idea as to where we're at with, the current plan to replace all the hydrants.
Are you gonna try to budget for that hydrant replacement, in 1 year, or are you gonna spread that over a couple of years?
We're gonna try to budget for 1 year if possible, so that way the next year we can focus on the water tanks, because the water tanks are gonna be a lot more than the hydrants are. We are gonna try to budget for a full replacement, because we don't know the extent that if we go into to repair one that we believe it's only gonna need a repair, I don't want us to under budget and, not be ready to replace that whole hydrant if we need to versus just repairing.
And we had, Peggy helped me out here, last year, year before, let's see, last year, 24, 23. Didn't we have a study done in 22, 23 showing wear and tear on the tanks, what need to be done, and that was presented to us, so that study, that information should be available, and we can certainly assume the tanks haven't gotten any better over time.
No, and,
So that information should be around here somewhere.
We got it.
yes, we do have it, I looked at it, the original money that, I think was allocated per tank, I don't see as being a sufficient amount to
Right.
refurbish them. So what I'll do is when we get to that point, I'm actually gonna sit down, review it again. We're gonna contact another vendor to come out.
Understood.
There's actually another vendor that I spoke to during the seminar I was at last month. They have a contractual agreement that they will take care of the tank, and once you agree to their contract, they basically will ensure that they take care of that tank moving forward for X amount of time. And that's something that we may look into, that's basically we contract with somebody else, it's their responsibility to come up, inspect the tanks, rehab the tanks ever so often, so that way the town is not having to make a timeline that says, okay, every 5 years we've got to do this. Some of the stuff we can contract out and say, we have a contract, this is what it's gonna cost us every year as we move forward, and then when we reach into that contract, we determine whether that contract was sufficient or not.
Good.
The other thing that I do want council to look into, and I'm gonna send you I'll email everybody a copy of a sample, it's a fee schedule. One of the objectives with updating our social medias and updating our websites is we're gonna have a fee schedule that is published, that is readily available for the public to see. On these fee schedules, we are gonna look at water tap fees, and we are gonna establish commercial tap fees. We do want to establish, water fees for a set price for water fees, for water taps that are larger than a 3/4 inch. A 3/4 inch line is what we do for residential. That's very common for residential. just looking around at the municipalities around us, looking at their fees, trying to determine what they're charging. Some municipalities were charging for anything bigger than anything like a 6-inch or bigger, they were charging up to $5,000 plus labor and 10%, or $5,000 plus equipment and 10% labor for those things. Currently, right now, we don't have a set established fee for anything bigger than a 3/4 inch line. So my objective as we establish fees is we need to have a fee for 3/4 inch line, a 1-inch line, a 2-inch line, a 6-inch line, and anything above that we'll probably have contracted out to somebody else because we don't need to be doing anything bigger than 6-inch. We also need to look at, which those bigger lines are gonna apply mostly to, commercial properties. We also need to look at other fees such as, encroachment fees. An encroachment fee would be any time that they're gonna turn back around and disturb public property to do any work. So if someone says, hey, I need to tear up, the sidewalk, or I need to tear up this road, that should have an encroachment fee attached to it because we have to turn back around and pay to get that fixed at a later point in time. So just various fees I've gone through, I've looked at other places. We're gonna add a section, my intent is that we add a section to our website that specifies every fee, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If someone calls and says, well, I wanna do this, and why are they charging me this much money? You know, it's something that I don't wanna make a number out of the air, I want council to look at that, and we all agree on it, and we say, this is what it's gonna cost for us to be able to do this work.
It's important to have that consistency.
Exactly.
And, that will, in those fee schedules, and then that will also establish the park fees, the updated park fees.
That's what I was thinking.
Where we go to, that way there is no questions about it. So in the coming days, I will email council a list of those items, a list of all the fees, and a recommendation for those fees. And then council, you can look at them and determine which one of those fees you want to go up, down, or you're okay with.
Good.
Sounds good.
Things we've never heard before, but we never asked. But yes, and consistency, as Barrett said, is key. Everybody gets treated the same.
Okay, I'm gonna ask this one more time. Is there any other discussion?
So do we gonna set another budget meeting now, or?
We can set another budget meeting now, that way it's during, open session.
Here to stay. We just have to cover another issue.
And again, we can do afternoon like this, or however you want to do. Right,
Says Tuesdays work, right, Mike?
Yeah, most of
If it is a Tuesday, I would prefer to do it like this.
Do it in the afternoon.
If at all possible.
That's fine.
okay.
What was the question, or what did you say?
What day, what, time or day that you would like?
Is a day like today,
Yeah, if it's the
time
afternoon,
wise,
it's fine with me.
good with everybody, 4 o'clock,
That's good if it's good for you all. Days are long
I have
enough.
to ask Lieutenant there, I think I'm free next Tuesday.
Will you be ready by then?
Do we
Probably
have
not.
one that quick, or?
No, how about we do the 25th?
25th.
Okay.
The 25th, and then do you have any recommendations on the time that you would like to meet with the county commissioners on the 31st?
Morning.
I got one for morning.
Well, you know, they,
Oh, do you? Okay. I don't care. Whatever time.
they have, gentlemen, a morning meeting.
I do have a 10 o'clock meeting
They have
on,
a 10 o'clock meeting, so if we wanted to not have one after hours, we could coordinate, perhaps have one after that. That'd put us about 12 or 1 o'clock during the day, if that's something y'all wanna do. They're already here. It'd suit me.
They coming here, we going over there?
uh,
Don't really matter.
we used to
Don't
switch
matter.
back and forth, but I don't guess it matters, but to do it during the day, if you all wanna do it during the day, they're already here on the, it's the second Tuesday, second Monday, third Monday.
So let's think about this budget meeting real quick. We're gonna
Oh,
be
yeah,
here
we
on the 25th.
We're on the 25th at 4 o'clock.
We're gonna be with them on the 31st. And then we're gonna be back in here on the 1st.
We're gonna have a park meeting the 25th,
What time?
The 26th.
or the 26th. No, it's, yeah, 26th.
So,
Park meeting's
that
at
means-
5 o'clock.
the 25th at 4 o'clock, is that what we're gonna do?
What if we moved our meeting to the 1st? And just do it 2 hours before our normal meeting? Will that give us enough time or not? We're gonna be here anyway.
Which meeting?
The budget meeting.
The budget meeting.
Yeah.
Budget meeting.
We can move it to the first, and we can plan to meet from,
I moved that to 6 o'clock now.
Josh, that's
And,
5 hours straight.
We need to get
And
these
you wanna do-
letters out.
You wanna do-
We've been here pretty good
That,
long.
and we're gonna go ahead and make a decision, I need to get these letters out for the appropriations.
we can get them out on the second, and then give them, and then they can have it to us no later than,
Cause I have to have stuff in the computer before May.
for,
It's general statutes that we put it in the software, so it has to be.
if we give it to them, if we vote on it on the first, gives you time to look at it, which we can, if we meet with council, with the commissioners on the 31st,
Well,
we can take a quick minute to vote on that, whether you approve it or not, or did you say you wanna do the 25th? We can do the 25th, if we can't do the 31st with the commissioners this month, I'm fine with it, because they're also in budget.
Right,
And I'm sure they won't mind trying to just push that over another time. To me, if I had to pick between a budget meeting and a meeting with the commissioners, I would pick the budget.
it's, I agree, we can meet with them any old time.
Okay,
So we're back, are we gonna meet on the 25th at 4?
Sounds good.
25th at 4. 25th at 4. Let me enunciate, for the budget.
Budget meeting.
And then we can look at the special appropriation ordinance
All that.
and all that on the 25th.
Mhm.
That gives you plenty of time to do your thing. And we're not concerned that the farmer's market issue is so pressing that we have to throw it in the middle of all this other stuff.
no, because they did explain to me
And
where
it's-
they're doing, I told them, I said, I just need you to explain that to council.
we can do
So,
that anytime.
Yeah, so it's not, they're not making they're not making profit off of it. But I do wanna bring that to your attention so that you're aware, in case one of you decides you want to set up a shop at the farmer's market, you have to pay for it, but they do have to report to us that where that money goes.
Okay, on Monday, the 31st,
We're not,
we're not gonna do that.
that's not there.
Okay,
And I'll tell, Mr. Shipley that we're not gonna meet this month because of budget. And he'll be understanding, because
I'm
they're the
sure
same.
he'll be understanding, cause they're gonna have the same fun we're having.
okay.
So we'll see you on the 25th.
Mike, you can just adjourn this meeting and then just start it up the 25th. I mean, not adjourn it. You can,
Continue it.
continue this meeting till the 25th.
So,
Okay.
But,
Good.
you got closed session.
And we have a quick conversation.
Oh, we got a quick closed session, so I'll,
Well, okay, that was what you was wanting to do right there.
Yeah, it won't be but like 10 minutes.
I'll make a motion, we go into closed
We're gonna
session.
go in closed session right here,
I made the motion.
need a second. Got a second, all in favor? 4-0, closed session. Turn the camera off.